Let me tell you, there are mornings when the universe just lines up to test how much coffee you can drink before you lose your temper entirely. The day this all started, I was standing on my old pine dock, bare feet, chipped mug warming my hands, sun barely up when the HOA came barreling down the shore yelling that I was trespassing on my own lake. Not just any lake either, Clearwater. My family's pride for nearly half a century. And that morning, apparently, I was the villain in some bizarre HOA fantasy about federal water rights. Honestly, if you'd seen it, you'd have laughed. Mara Kensington, HOA president in a fuchsia pantsuit loud enough to scare off the trout strutting down the slope like she was leading a military coup. Two volunteers at her side, binders in hand, faces pinched and nervous. If you've ever had someone try to out-authority you on your own property before sunrise, you know the look. She barked, "Stop right there! You're trespassing on federal wildlife sanctuary water." Her heels were stabbing into the earth like she was trying to plant a flag. I sipped my coffee and just let her talk. That's something I learned from my uncle who built this dock and left me the lake. When people want a reaction, silence is a weapon. Mara whipped out her phone and called 911, swearing I was violating some environmental crime. Her volunteers, Ron with the world's shakiest mustache and Lena lips so thin they practically disappeared, held up their binders like they were reading charges in a kangaroo court. When the sheriff's truck rolled up, sun flashing off the windshield, Mara folded her arms like a cat that's just knocked your glass off the counter. "Good they're here. We can settle this immediately." She looked so smug you'd think she was about to deliver me to the FBI herself. Sheriff Harlan stepped out looking like a man who'd already had enough drama for the whole week, and it wasn't even 8 a.m. Now, you ever see two universes collide? That's what happened as Mara explained to Harlan loudly enough to wake the squirrels that Clearwater Lake was now a federally protected wildlife sanctuary. "Your presence here is a direct violation of federal code," she declared. Harlan looked at me standing on the dock, mug in hand, boots a little muddy. "Morning, Ethan." "Morning, Harlan." He didn't even blink at Mara's tirade. Then she started waving around documents, EPA logos, Section 4, B pages fluttering in the breeze. Ron recited rules he clearly didn't understand. Mara insisted this was all real. "Ignorance is not a defense, Mr. Caldwell," while the sheriff squinted at a page, then at Mara, then at me. "Why hasn't the county been notified about any of this?" he asked. Mara's answer was priceless. Notifications are issued directly through the HOA Environmental Subcommittee. She actually put her hand over her heart as if she was the federal government herself. I just stepped off the dock and told Harlan, "Those documents aren't federal. They're printed off a website she probably made last night." Mara spun on me, nostrils flaring. "You have no authority to question EPA documentation, and you," I told her, "have no authority to invent it." That's about when old Ray Johnson, retired fishing guide and local truth teller, walked up, thermos in hand, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else but unable to stay away from a good mess. "Ethan, you ain't the first." She pulled the same stunt on the Hendersons and the Matsons. Mara snapped Raymond, "Your involvement is neither requested nor required." Ray ignored her. "Both those families sold their parcels after Mara started waving those books around," he said, voice flat. Now the tension was thick enough to choke on. Harlan finally said, "Mara, if the lake is federally protected, I need to see county filings, state notices, anything verifying this." Mara shoved the binder at him again, but I plucked a page before she could stop me. It had a blue seal, a bald eagle over a globe. "EPA doesn't use this seal," I said. "That's the Department of Transportation from a decade ago." Ray actually snorted. Guess she mixed up her fake stamps. Mara's jaw was tight as rebar. "Mr. Caldwell, you have 30 minutes to vacate this dock before the next level of enforcement is involved." "Next level," Ray echoed, grinning. "Federal compliance agents," she announced. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about wetlands or fish. This was a setup, a scam, pure and simple. She'd done it before. Probably would have kept doing it too if nobody stood up. I handed the fake document to Harlan. "I inherited this lake. Deeds clean. No restrictions. No federal sanctuary. You can check." Mara hissed, "You'll regret challenging this." Ray leaned in, whispering, "She's trying to scare you, same as the others. But you know, when a bully doubles down, it usually means they're about to lose control." That afternoon, it got wild. I was sanding the dock railing when I heard engines, multiple SUVs crawling up my gravel driveway, dust flying. Mara was first out now in a fake government uniform, wrong badge, sunglasses, reflecting everything but the truth. Her team started hammering stakes into the ground, unspooling orange tape, slapping up federal wetlands no entry signs. To someone watching from afar, it probably looked legit. It was theater, nothing more. I stood my ground. "Ma'am, this is still private property." She shot back. "Not anymore. The HOA Environmental Subcommittee, acting under provisional federal authority, has redrawn the boundaries." I couldn't help but laugh. "That's not a thing I said." "It is now," she snapped, face red. Then they started reading off species, the speckled ridge-beaked heron, she claimed. "There is no such bird." I let her ramble, watching the red tape slice through my shoreline like a scar. When they tried to tape off my cabin, I stepped right through it. Walked inside and unlocked the steel briefcase my uncle left me. It held every water report, every certified restoration log, and most importantly, a copy of a law I'd helped write years back. Mara had no clue who she was really threatening. The next morning, Mara and her husband, Thomas, lawyer by trade, con man by preference, showed up with more volunteers and even more fake documents. Thomas smiled the way you do when you're sure the world's stacked in your favor. "You're obstructing a federal sanctuary assessment," he intoned. "That puts you in violation of Title 4B of the Environmental Protection Framework." I just shook my head. That framework doesn't exist. And for the record, I helped write the laws you're pretending to cite. Ray, who'd shown up to watch the circus, just laughed. "They didn't see that coming," he muttered. What followed was a tangle of legalese, color-coded maps, bogus appraisals, and threats. Their whole play was to scare me into selling the lake for pennies, just like they'd done to the families before me. Mara let it slip finally why she was so desperate. The lake was the cleanest in the region, worth a fortune, and she wanted it under HOA control. Only this time, they'd picked the wrong target. By sundown, their fake agents were gone. The lake was quiet. I stood at the window of my cabin, documents spread out, planning my next move. When Ray dropped by that night, he warned me, "These folks, they think you're easy because you're alone. They bullied out the last owners with fake inspectors, fake fines, threats of federal prosecution. Folks hear that stuff and freeze. But you don't scare easy." He was right. That night I pulled out my phone, opened a secure line, and made a call I'd hoped never to need. It's time. The next morning, the storm really broke. SUVs rolled in, hazard tape flying, volunteers in imitation hazmat suits acting out Mara's final act. They staged a fake federal raid, planting evidence of contamination near my dock. Ray caught them at it. "Did you see?" he whispered. I saw. Then out of the fog, a real helicopter thundered in matte black, federal badge on the side. Agent Naomi Parker stepped onto the dock, calm eyes like steel. Mara tried to bluster. "You can't just..." Parker cut her off with a raised hand. "Please stop talking. I told Parker what happened, every detail." Ray jumped in. They taped off his cabin, planted evidence, declared his land a sanctuary, no EPA filing, nothing. EPA. Parker didn't even blink. "Mrs. Kensington, I need to see your credentials." Mara tried. "We operate under Provisional Environmental Authority. That's not a federal entity," Parker replied deadpan. The rest, honestly, was just the sound of a bad con falling apart. When Parker revealed who I was, Senator Ethan Caldwell, primary author of the Anti-HOA Protection Act, the color drained from Mara's face. "That law," I said, "makes federal impersonation an immediate criminal offense. It went into effect 2 days ago." By then, federal agents had rolled in. Rodriguez's Environmental Response Division gathered every piece of fake evidence, scanned every forged paper, and made it crystal clear Mara Thomas, the whole Crystal Preserve Holdings outfit, were facing fraud, impersonation, conspiracy, and attempted land seizure. As they cuffed Mara and Thomas, I heard her hiss, "You think this makes you a hero? You don't understand what you're dealing with." Rodriguez cut her off. "Ma'am, the only thing unsafe here was your operation." The relief when it finally hit was quiet, like fog burning off the lake. The families who'd been forced out started coming back. Restitution was paid. The lake was officially recognized as the cleanest in the region, my uncle's restoration records now being used for state training. The judge's letter confirmed it all. Clearwater Lake, its surrounding acreage, and all water rights belong solely to Senator Ethan Caldwell. No restrictions, claims, or easements shall apply. Ray and I stood on the dock listening to eagles overhead and kids laughing at a cabin that had been abandoned for too long. "He'd want the lake to stay free," I said of my uncle. "Well, it ain't a game board anymore," Ray replied. Sheriff Harlan stopped by, dropping off the last folder of paperwork, EPA seal. Everything official. All the lies finally washed away. You stopped something bigger than just fraud, he said. This kind of thing could have spread if you hadn't acted. When Ray asked if maybe this lake had saved itself through me, I almost believed it. Some places are too pure to be stolen, too full of memory to let deceit take root. Maybe that's true. And just when I thought I'd finally get a quiet month, my phone buzzed. Urgent HOA. President attempted to seize a veteran's Purple Heart ceremony, requesting guidance under the Anti-HOA Protection Act. Ray chuckled. And I reckon you're going to give it. You know, HOA bullies only have the power you let them have. And justice, real justice, only arrives when good folks decide enough is enough. So if you've ever stood your ground for what's rightfully yours, let folks know. Drop a yes, share your story. Because as long as I draw breath, this fight isn't over, and neither is yours.